because I wanted to talk about leadership, hiring, managing staff, something that you've done a lot of in your time. And as you said earlier, there's a real skill shortage. One of the big problems that construction companies are facing right now is the ability to find the right people, keep them, and look after them. So how many staff what's the most amount of staff you've had under your dictatorship at its peak?
I said 120 maybe. Obviously with middle tier management, so I didn't manage them all, but I was responsible for them all. The last business that I worked for that I was on the board of employed 500 people in different disciplines, and probably in the disciplines I was involved in, 150 maybe.
Fair few then.
Yeah.
So you're talking about one of the big things that you learned was not being draconian. It was being, I don't want to use the word holistic, but a nicer manager. Is that the right word to use?
I think it was about, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm nice because I can be not very nice. I think it's more about
a good leader,
having the right people in the right generals in the army, if you like. So the right lieutenants below those people and below those people, so that you've got ultimately that level of accountability. And I think it's a case of talking to those people. So how I would run my team would be I'd have my managers, I'd have a weekly meeting with them, I'd go through all our objectives, what we were looking to do. But I would also make a concerted effort to go and talk to the people on the front line almost. So if I was, I don't know, group commercial director, I'd go and talk to an assistant QS. How are you doing? Because then I could understand below the levels of management that were reporting into me, and I'd know if the other ones were telling me bollocks. Because and then
it's a big problem, isn't it?
Yes, because you can get a lot of people who can come to you and go, "Oh, this is great, that's great," and all the rest of it. And when you get under the skin of it, all they're doing is just telling you what you want to hear, so that you go away.
Yeah, my brother's a chippy, and he worked for a big company that was more like a chop shop, to be perfectly honest. Just quick jobs, as quick as you can, slapdash. And he hated it. He now works on, I think, houses that are, I think the cheapest, quote unquote, house he's worked on recently was £3 million doing bespoke furniture, bespoke stairs, proper high end chippy work. But when he was at the chop shop, he worked for a guy. And he sat in on one of the meetings because he was doing really well. They wanted to invite him along for him to meet the other directors and whatnot. And he said his direct boss was also at that meeting and just fed the directors absolute lies, just absolute bollocks. And he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He lied about how well the site was being run. He lied about having no issues with any delivery of materials, the management of said materials, that the team hadn't run into any issues with any of the installations. I was just, my brother was just like, what the fuck? This is pure bollocks. And he was like, well, I don't know what to do because I can't exactly go snitch on my boss.
Yes.
But if you had someone like yourself coming down to him saying, you know, what's the deal here?
Yeah. And I think you also
opportunity to set it straight.
You've got to be mindful in any business that the guys on the ground, so in my business, the painters, the plasterers, the metal stud partition guys, the suspended ceiling fixers, they're the guys who are making you the money. So you need to talk to them. You need to talk to them, I think, on a level, not as a master servant level, as a man to man. And that way, I think they respect you. I think they want to work hard for the company, and they feel valued in the company, rather than just the guy turns up in his Mercedes, walks straight past me, ignores me, even though I'm sat in a hole, digging a manhole out or whatever. And that's something I've always tried to do. I've always tried to engage with everybody, and I've tried to speak to everybody in a way that they're at the same level as me, not to disrespect them. The point that you make regarding your brother's quite an interesting one, because one of the businesses I used to work for, the owner of that business was sort of semi-retired, and he'd come off the tools, so he built a big business off the tools, and I was on the board of this business. And he'd go to the site, and the site manager would just go, "It's all the office's fault. The office have done this, everything's wrong because of the office." So then he'd get in his car, come back to the office, absolutely go ballistic. And then it was a struggle then to convince him that what the guy was saying was a lie. And the whole thing just became a total clusterfuck. And what I ended up doing and how I changed that situation was because the guy on site was stressed that this guy would come and talk to him, and he wanted rid of him as fast as he could because he was worried about having those conversations and he felt uncomfortable. So his easiest way to get rid of him is to tell him everything's the office's fault. And then to come back in the office, I then had to spend, the best part of a day peeling this guy off the ceiling because of all the things that he perceived to be wrong in his business, which weren't wrong in his business. It was just a guy who was afraid to talk to him. So what I used to do is, instead I said, right, once a month, we'll get in my car, we'll drive around all the sites and we'll talk to all these people and I'll come with you. That way I get round, my man on site's not scared shitless of you, and you can see it from your point of view. And then I sort of kind of cheated a little bit. So I said to the man on site, right, next week we're coming to your site. So when I then took the guy to the site, the guy who built the business, he was like, this site's fucking amazing. That's a tick in the box. Everything looks perfect, all the rest of it. He went home happy. The site manager wasn't stressed out because everybody knew where it was and he could get on with the business. But we were almost at that stage. And one of the things I found with a lot of founders who've started a business and then built a business is they then almost flip into an element of self-sabotage, where they want to actively then almost go and create problems in the business for the sake of it. I mean, this guy would literally go and take a set of bolt croppers, break into his sites on a Saturday so he could go and see what was going on. And he was in his late 70s, early 80s. So if he fell down a fucking manhole on an unsupervised site, what the hell would have happened to him? But he had it in his head that much that he couldn't let control go. And it was like, but all you're doing is you're almost destroying your own business. You're better off saying, I'll tell you what, I'm off on holiday for 3 months. I'll see you later. Just ring me once a week and let me know how things are going. And I want to look at the management accounts, which is, I think, a lesson that I've learned as to where I want my business to be. I don't want to be in it kicking everyone's head in. I want to get into a stage where the business is leveraged enough for me to sort of say, I don't have to go in as much. Therefore, I can do other things that I want to do, and things that we've talked around consultancy work and stuff like that later on down the line. But I also know that my business is well run and I've got key touch points within that business, numbers and what have you, that give me the metrics that I need to keep me comfortable.
There's a startling parallel there between the hospitality industry. Holly, my daughter, works with us now. And before she worked with us, when she started mid-COVID, she'd worked in hospitality, coffee shop. Before that, she worked in Wetherspoons. And in both of these places, especially Wetherspoons, not that it's necessarily company policy or culture before anybody thinks about suing me, that this is just what she observed in that team, in that pub. And that is, it was very much about covering your own back. So if a customer complained, the first thing that happened was the manager whom they complained to, looked around for someone to blame.
Yeah.
Finger pointing. And when Holly joined us, she was almost nervous. Never mind the fact I'm her father and she should know better. Because we said, we basically support you. You are going to screw up and it's going to cost us money, but that's okay.
Yes.
When you do that, you must be honest with us so we know what we're dealing with. And we've had that rule all the way through and she's used to it now. But in the beginning, she'd do some innocuous thing, which was just a minor irritation. She'd be terrified she was going to lose her job. And we said this, Holly. And there's a few times she's probably fucked up quite majorly. But again, we just say, we've just spent £1,000 to teach you this lesson. Don't waste it.
Yes. Yeah.
And now she's used to it and she's very happy about it. But it's, I can't understand that mentality of, it's basically empire building and arse covering, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think we look at it in a similar way, like what you said there, John, with the £1,000. It's, to me, if there's a lesson learned that's cost you £1,000, because every lesson in business costs you money, as long as that individual, be that me or be that a team member, doesn't make that mistake again, it's an investment.
Absolutely.
So there's no need for the arse covering.
I even use this attitude with clients who say they've been, I sent out an invoice for £300 and they haven't paid it yet and it's 60 days late. What do I do? And I say, well, you let it go. And what you do is you just tell yourself, I've just spent £300 on learning a lesson. Well, what lesson is that, John? That lesson you've just learned is get paid up front. That's a really cheap way of learning that lesson, £300. It's a fucking bargain. And it's the same circumstances, just a different way of looking at it.
Yes, absolutely.
So what else do people need to do to make that transition from frantic, overbearing, worrying manager to a leader to the boys in their gangs?
I think keep your ego in check and be more humble is probably something that I would certainly say, and that's something that I always keep in the back of my mind. And you've got to let go as well, and you've got to have that confidence to let go. You've got to say, right, I'm putting this person into a position to manage a project, manage a team, manage whatever, and I'm going to give them the responsibility. I think it's a case of then keeping them accountable. So whatever you say, they are accountable to deliver the outcomes that you wish. But you've got to have that confidence to be able to let go. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. You certainly see in certain businesses, and other businesses I've worked in, where the owner's doing everything. He might have a team of 30 people, but he or she can't let go. And because of that, they're working 12 hours a day, 6-7 days a week, just because they feel that nobody can do it as good as they can, which is an ego thing for me.
Huge ego, and often not true.
Yes. Yeah, and often when they do let go, they think, "Why didn't I do that before? Why didn't I bring this person on?"
Here's the thing: even if it is true, if the next best person is only 90% as good as you are, the question to ask yourself is that 10% a case of diminishing returns?
Yes.
Is 90% good enough for the benefits it will bring me if I don't have to do that fucking job anymore?
Yeah,
that's the lesson I took a long time to learn. Because a good example is Holly. Holly's great at writing. She's better than some people I've been teaching for years, but she's not as good as I am at this. But the thing is, she's easily good enough that I don't have to do a lot of it now.
Yes.
And at least with her doing it, like my social media, all that stuff, at least with her doing it, it gets done.
Yes.
Better imperfectly done than perfectly not done as well.
Agreed.
So to be a better leader, chill the fuck out, leave the ego at the door.
Yeah. Empower your team.
Delegate.
Yeah.
Power.
And
support,
also lead by example.
Yes. I mean, I always have a saying when I'm having a challenge with somebody or when I'm talking to somebody, I always say, I'd never ask you to do something I can't do myself.
I wouldn't be prepared to try at least.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But then I also have another one on the flip side of things where I've said to people in the past, if I need to do it, then why do I need you?
Yeah, I like that one.
That's the flip side of things.
Well, here's something we have, and this is a good leadership kind of. It's not a skill particularly; it's a good tactic, though. My door, I would say, my door is always open to clients because it's not. But if we have a client, we don't generally publicize this too much. But if we've got a client, regardless of who they are, if they're really stuck on something, my WhatsApp's open. WhatsApp me.
Yeah.
How I deal with it is entirely up to me. But I mean, I'm not going to turn people away because they're trying. But here's the thing I say to them is, you can come to me with a problem, a real sticky point, whether it's personal or business, I don't care. But before you do that, when you come to me, you've got to have at least 3 ideas for solving it yourself.
Yes.
I'll help you, but I'm not. It's a hand up, not a hand out. I'm not doing this for you. You come to me with 3 ideas for solving it yourself, and we'll talk. What happens? They solve it themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not me being lazy. It's me not getting them into a sense of a situation of learned fucking helplessness.
Yes, I found that with in the past. I stopped having an open door policy in certain businesses where people could just drop in at have you got a minute? And I used to schedule time with me. And then you'd find that the problem that they came and asked you if you've got a minute for, they'd sort it out by the time the appointment came up to sit with you and ask you the question.
Yeah, I used to do it with my children too. And it worked wonders. Dad, can you do this? Well, have you tried to do it yourself? No, well, go and have a go and come to me and tell me 3 ways you want to approach it.
Yeah.
I did it yesterday with Holly.
Oh, you did?
Holly had a call with a...
Do I want to hear this?
Yeah, you do. Holly had a call with the guys that are going to be managing and distributing and printing the newest book when John finally finishes it. But less said about that, the better. Anyway, I get a message from Holly because she took the call and she was obviously all excited about it. And she sent me a message. Can we speak right now? Just need 5 minutes. And I was in the middle of doing something, and I could have, but I thought, no. So I said no. If it's really important and urgent, let me know and I'll move some stuff around so we can talk later today. If not, it can wait for tomorrow morning's call. And she went, no bother, I'll write it up and then we don't even have to speak about it on tomorrow's call. I was like, so we didn't even need a call in the first fucking place.
Yeah, there you go.
And she literally just
she's
sent
no
me a
daughter
summary
of
of
mine.
the call.
Yeah, she's no daughter.
Well, she
of
was
mine,
just
like,
excited.
like
She wanted to just word vomit on
brain
someone.
brain fart.
Yeah. And often when people are struggling with a problem, because they've always had the ability to go to a parent, say, or a teacher or a manager, they just want to get it out of their head as soon as possible. They've found a problem. They haven't even thought about the problem.
Yes.
You just need to be able to say, no, fuck off. You're here for a reason, member of staff. Think about it for 10 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, it's all about making yourself less accessible, isn't it? Which I think certainly comes back to what you're both saying.
There for support, but not there to be ear raped.
Yes.
Like, you cannot have your ears pinned back and wide open for anyone to stick their dick in. That's a bad way to run your business because you'll have a brain full of jizz, and brains full of jizz don't tend to work particularly well.
No.
I'll be honest. I've done a lot in my long life, but I've never had a dick stuck in my ear, or indeed stuck my dick in someone else's ear. It's something you're quite familiar with, Connor.
You're autistic. You wouldn't get it. It doesn't work with autistic people.
That's a neurotypical thing. This ear dick confluence, is it?
Oh, we all know an ear raper. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, it doesn't matter the person they're ear raping. They just need an ear to just word vomit into about their problems because they've just got that slopey shoulder syndrome. They can't handle the weight of pressure. They can't handle something unsolved just sitting in their brain. So by any means necessary, they just need to get it out via ear raping, slopey shoulders. But if you just tell them no, stick them in a room, take away their phone and just like sit there, fucking think about it for 5 minutes. They'll come up with solutions. That it might not be the solution, but having some solutions to work with and to consider is definitely better than being ear raped.
Definitely.
Is there anything else we want to add around leadership, hiring, managing staff, especially in this, with it being so difficult to do in construction?
I think hiring is quite a challenging one. Certainly, I don't want to speak for other industries because I don't know, but certainly in construction, it's a hard one. And a CV can tell you a lot of things, and you generally find that you look at the CV, the person comes in, they vomit what it says on your website because that's all the research they've ever done. And so getting to the nub of what that person's really about is often a challenge. And I think if I look back, I went to an event where I talked to Karen Brady, Lady Brady, who's on The Apprentice, and I asked her the question, and she said, the question I ask is, anybody in an interview is, tell me something about my business I don't already know. And she said, that's like a golden question. It's for people to answer. And it's something that I've used in the past, and it does generate quite a lot of interesting responses.
Can you give us an example?
I think, I'm trying to think of an example of it, because I've asked that question that many times. But a lot of the things it does pull out is it shows if people have done things like gone on company's house and looked at your accounts, or done further research into your business beyond just looking on a website. Because I think for us, our website doesn't explain as a business probably very well what we actually do. So to see that person has done some investigating in the background and has done the research certainly teases that out of them, that there's a bit more about them just than word vomiting, as you would say.
That's a really good question.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to think what someone would say to us, but the whole point of it is I wouldn't know because I'm asking.
And I think that's the whole point of the question. Know. The whole point of the question is to catch people out, isn't it? And it's to really.
Here's the thing, you see, when we if you get a cold email from someone saying, I can help you with the website, podcast, whatever, Connor, we could say, well, okay, tell us something about our podcast we don't already know.
Mm.
Okay.
Now,
what you could do if you're going outbound marketing, you could say, if you were to ask me, tell me something about my business I don't already know, I would say, well, that's just a rhetorical device. You know this. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It's not chiasmus, it's another one. But we could use that in outbound marketing, outbound DMs. So it's a really good question, Graham. I'm stealing that bugger. I'm sure you must have got it. I'm sure you got it from us.
Yeah, I'm sure she must. Karen Brady must have got it from you. I'm confident of that.
No. I've just learned that one. I know every day is a school day for me.
Yeah,
so
I've
written it down. We're going to be using that one, Connor.
Wonderful.